I've been telling you on my show about social media companies, Twitter, Facebook, and other tech tyrant entities, and their endless efforts to impact our election, obviously in favor of the Democrats, like the liberal activists at CNN. So how they do it is really creepy and kind of backdoorish and slimy, but that's what these companies do. And we are under attack again by Facebook, who has employed an army of hilariously called fact checkers to basically write opinion pieces disguised as fact checking. And what they do is they attack conservative pages endlessly. Happened again. I've spoken about this on the show so much, I don't want to go back and relitigate it, but a new one happened yesterday. So I'm sitting there yesterday on a conference call, my Raycons, no joke, and I get a Facebook notification on my phone. And it says, basically, one of your articles has been rated false by a fact checker. I'm like, it has? I went through them. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, well, which one was false by, the infamous fact check? Remember the fact check they did on Nancy Pelosi where we actually quoted her and they said the quote was false? Remember? Hilarious. It was a quote. Whoa, quotations. So fact checking by liberals like Facebook is a joke, of course. So I get to the link, and it's a speech by Eric Trump, which was spectacular, about Joe Biden, where Eric Trump had indicated that Biden wants to hike your taxes, and that Biden, there it is right there. This is an actual screenshot from my phone of our post on Facebook, which now you should spread even more. It says, Trump 2024. That's what I wrote. Triggering intensifies, and you'll see it's a video of Eric Trump, and you'll see below, this is what the post reads below now, because Facebook put this on there. Partly false information checked by hilariously called independent fact checkers. In other words, liberal activists. So I click on the link, and the link is to this article by the American Foreign Press by a so-called independent fact checker, calls himself W.G. Dunlap, who's probably a radical leftist and not admitting it. And here's the link now attached to Eric Trump's speech. Trump's son makes false claims on second night of the Republican convention. I'm like, he did? Because I listened to the speech and I couldn't figure out what was false about it. I thought it was a spectacular speech. That's why I wrote Trump 2024. Maybe you can run with Laura or Don. I mean, the lineup is strong. So here's what they fact checked, showing you again, because unlike the fact checker, I'll provide actual facts, which fact checkers, which are really opinion writers, never do. So here's the fact check attached to Eric's speech. Quote, one of Donald Trump's sons falsely claimed that Joe Biden pledged to defund police and raise taxes on most Americans. That's false. And also misconstrued the incumbent U.S. president's record on ending military conflicts in a full-throated appeal for voters to grant his father a second term. Folks, does this sound like a fact check or an editorial piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like a badly written, using the logic of a 4-year-old opinion piece in the back pages of the swampy New York Times. No, it's a fact check, Joe. Oh, yeah. Fact check. So let's do the actual facts. So just to be clear what they're fact checking, right. Facebook, as they engage in rampant election interference now, as they falsely fact check true items, they're saying that Eric Trump, you read it yourself, I just read it on the air, that Eric Trump's claims that Joe Biden is going to raise your taxes and defund the police are false. That's what they're saying. That's what the fact check says, right? This is false information. Okay, so again, in an effort to give you actual facts on the show, which you'll never get on the left, I used the most radical far-left company I could find for a web search, Google, and I just Googled Trump tax cuts, which Biden has pledged to repeal. Oh, don't worry, I got video on that too, and I'll put it up on the screen. Here's Google. This is Google, right? Not a model, Joe, of right-wing conservatism, Google, right? Wouldn't we agree? Mm-mm. So here's Google. When I Googled Trump tax cuts brackets, this is a screenshot of my actual phone. Trump tax cut brackets. Quote, Google. The law retained the old structure of 7 brackets, but in most cases, it lowered the rates. It did? You mean the rates Biden's pledging to hike again? This is crazy. Let me read it to you just in case you think, again, W.G. Dunlap, the alleged fact checker, he apparently can't read or Google Trump tax cut brackets. That kind of stuff doesn't work for him. It says the top rate fell from 39.6 to 37%. It did. Oh, well, that's just the rich people. while the 33% bracket dropped to 32. Oh, those are just the second rich people. Oh, but this is weird. Now we start getting the middle class tax brackets. The 28% bracket, the middle class, fell to 24%. It did. Wait, I heard the middle class didn't get a tax cut. Yeah, because you're an idiot. That's what you heard. I'm sorry. The 25% bracket, which is the middle class, fell to 22%. So they got a tax cut too? Poor people definitely didn't get a tax cut. Really? Because lower income categories in the 15% bracket got their taxes cut to 12%. W.G. Dunlap, alleged fact checker, really an opinion writer with the reasoning of maybe a 3 or maybe 4 was being generous, apparently can't Google the Trump tax cuts, which Biden has already pledged to cut. So just to be clear, because we're doing a logic train here, I know liberals, this is hard, chaining facts together to draw a conclusion, science. I know it's tough, but we have a tax cut law currently in effect signed by President Donald Trump, which cut middle-class taxes from 3 to 4 percentage points. I just showed you the Google results. Google, your lords at Google, your overlords. You think Google's lying that your taxes really, you want to ask your accountant? Feel free, go and put the show on pause. Your taxes were cut. Whether you believe them or not is an indication of your own stupidity, not the facts. So W.G. Dunlop, who's not very bright, apparently couldn't Google that middle-class taxes were cut. Eric Trump says your taxes will go up under Biden because he's going to get rid of those cuts, meaning those cuts go back to not cuts. Tax cuts, tax not cuts. Meaning if your taxes were cut, folks, I'm sorry to torture you with this, but liberals are listening like W.G. Dunlop, W.D. Gunlop, whatever his name is. And he's a fact checker who can't use even Google. Google. If you cut middle-class taxes by 3 to 4 points, and then you get rid of those tax cuts, your taxes then go up 3 to 4 points. Fact check. False. Biden never said that. He didn't. Hat tip Americans for tax reform, who has a nice little montage we're going to play here of Biden repeatedly telling you the Trump tax cuts, which again, for the liberals, this thing, cut your taxes, is going to be repealed. Therefore, cuts. Joe Biden, not cuts, meaning your taxes go up. Check this out.
What I'd be focusing on is eliminating the $1.9 trillion tax cut that he passed.
People say, well, Joe, how are you going to do all this? Well, guess what? First thing I do is going to repeal this Trump tax cut. Oh, not a joke.
What is going to be your plan as president to get us out of this hole?
Get rid of the Trump tax cut.
No, not joking.
The first thing I would do as president was eliminate the president's tax cut.
So when I'm president, if God willing I am, we're going to reverse those Trump tax cuts. One of the things we got to do is, if I'm...
So W.D. Gunlap, or whatever his face is, apparently can't Google, Google the leftist operation. I prefer the DuckDuckGo folks and others out there. Joe, just to be, again, because there are liberals listening who, facts and stuff it's tough for them. Serious question. You did not edit that, right? That's a full statement. He doesn't go on, in other words, after any of that. It's an ATR video. Hat tip to them, but he doesn't go on. He didn't cut out where he says, no, I'm just kidding. When I just said I was going to cut the Trump tax cuts out, that I really meant I was going to leave the trade. He didn't say that, right? You didn't cut that part out. Just checking.
No, what you see is what you get. Full
thought.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Just checking.
Good.
So GW Gunlap, or whatever your name is, you may want to check that video out and reconsider your fact check that Eric Trump was lying. It kind of looks like you're lying, doesn't it? That Joe Biden didn't say he wanted to hike your taxes? When you get rid of a tax cut, you hike taxes. I know math isn't really your thing. Even more hilarious, he continues to insist that Joe Biden didn't say they wanted to defund the police. Defund meaning take money away from the police. This is only going to be the 5,426th time we've played this video of Joe Biden when asked if he wants to redirect funding away from the police, saying not only yes, but absolutely. Here's Joe Biden. Again, this is, by the way, for EW Gun Lab. Check this out.
Plus military equipment for law enforcement. They don't need that. The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is
But
that...
can we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Joe, again, just checking. You didn't cut out the part where he says, I'm just kidding, folks. Just kidding, just a joke. Did you cut that out? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Not
okay,
at all,
thank
dude.
you. Just and that's only like the fourth or fifth time. Seriously, we played that cut, but it doesn't matter. Now, RE Gunlap in his fake fact check, of course, he's going to say something like, well, Joe Biden later wrote that he didn't want to defund the police in an op-ed. Fine, fair enough. He did write that. We do facts. But maybe you should include that in your fact check and say Eric Trump, who said that Joe Biden wants to defund the police, was probably referring to a segment where Joe Biden said he wanted to take money away from the police. And then include the context that Joe Biden later said, no, I don't want to defund the police in an op-ed. That's what someone who's sane and a fair fact checker would do. But not DS Gunlap. DS Gunlap, of course, is a fake fact checker and an opinion writer who leaves all of that stuff out and only puts the other stuff in there.
You just heard Dan Bongino.